If you'll allow me, while you're eating and relaxing, I'll take a few minutes just to sort of explain why we're here, what we're doing, how we got to this point, and really where we'd like to go from here. And in sort of my own sort of inimitable style, that's my speech. I wrote that while I was driving to pick up the curry goat and rice from Wickham, from Mrs. Hector. Let me just give you the background. First of all, I'm really glad that you actually came out on a cold night and supported something that's going on, which for some of you will either be on the periphery of what you do, or it will be off the map and you won't be doing anything that involves Henley, usually. We're here because a little while ago, someone from Henley in Blue came up to Gainsborough Estate, where I live, which is supposed to be the rough end of town, and wanted to get some hanging baskets and whatnot and make it look nice up there. And as they were knocking on some doors, some woman said to these people, never mind effing Henley in Blue, what about all the drug use that's going on and all the drug dealing that's going on up here? And that set the cat among the pigeons, and the councillors got to hear about it, and the councillors rang the police and said, we're not having this. You know, what do we pay our council tax for, and all the rest of it. And all of a sudden, Gainsborough Hill had an increased level of police patrols. So every time you got out of the car, I would say to Harry, if you're going to use the car, don't text, don't sit there for half an hour with your hat like that and all the rest of it. Because there's old Bill about all the time, and it felt a little bit unsafe for a little while. And then I was walking the dog on the little common that we got up there, and I bumped into Vicky Sims, who's the community police officer. And we had this conversation, and she relayed some more detail for me. And I said, why don't we do something? Instead of blaming the police or blaming the council or waiting for someone to come in and rescue us, we got skills, we got resources, why don't we do something? And she said, that'd be a good idea, we need to talk about that some more. And I went and walked my dog, and she went and did her thing. And I was thinking about a group or something, I don't know, you know, kind of, we were thinking about specific little Herberts that are up there using and committing a bit of crime and burgling people on the estate. One of them is, you know, going through difficult time and is making life difficult for his family as well. And I was thinking, how do we target these people? And in a sense, I was thinking about going around with a butterfly net, catching butterflies. And the more I thought about it, the more the idea developed, and I spoke to other people. And we came up more with the concept of a butterfly garden, where we attract the butterflies to come in, rather than we go out and, you know, beat them into submission. And to cut a long story short, I came one day to the thought that I needed to open a recovery cafe. I was on Wired In, I was talking to other people online. There's a Serenity Cafe in Edinburgh. There's people talking about cafes as a backdrop. At the time I was writing a specification for the Bucks Dat, and I kept thinking, you know, if I was going to, I was modelling in my mind, if I was going to create a service, I'd have a series of cafes around the town. Rather than treatment centres, I'd have cafes so people could come in and you could sit for half an hour if you're a bit early, have a coffee. If you have a difficult session with your counsellor, you can have something to eat before you go home. You know, once you start to get stable, maybe do a bit of volunteering. So I started to think along these lines, and I thought, where can I get a cafe? And I do come here on a Sunday morning. So I was kind of coming in and out thinking, where do I get a cafe? Where do I get a cafe? And I'm like walking in and out. And suddenly I thought, they've got a cafe there. And we just, well, the church itself has just spent £1 million doing this place up. They built a children's centre, extended out there. It's been a right nightmare for everyone concerned. So you just forget, right on your doorstep, there's a community asset that you might be able to pull together. I spoke to the pastor and looked on the website. Essentially, if you book this place, you can book it for £30 an hour. So for tonight, you've got it for £100. Well, we don't need funding for that. We can go in our own pockets and get there. So what I've done, and this isn't to make you sort of think I'm wonderful, it's just a practical thing. I've taken my expenses for the last quarter that I would normally swag, and it would go straight in the bank, and I've put it down as an endowment for this place. And we decided we'll start a recovery cafe, we'll rent it once a month, we'll see where we go from there. Tonight was going to be the first one, but we thought, actually what we need is to have a bit of a preview evening and talk to some people in the know and some people who live locally. And we've got Sue Pryor over there who runs the Nomad project, and I thought Nomad's another initiative that was started by a guy from this church called Gabby Enaharo, who just went and started hanging around the pubs and talking to people that were getting in trouble and started marshalling them towards something a bit more positive. So I thought, well, Sue could make some connections, we could do a bit of networking, I could pick your brains. We've put some stuff on the wall. Jasmine got involved and kind of brought a degree of professionalism to it. Nick here did the logo and everything. This wasn't a logo to start with, it was just the heading. And when he moved it out of the way to do an invite for the little fancy image that we got down there, it suddenly became a logo because he literally had to group it and move it out of the way. So by degrees, we've ended up here. And I don't actually know what the end result is going to be. What I want to do is build from here. Trev there is the General Secretary of Isaac International, which is a faith-based organisation that works in about, I don't know, 70 different countries. Got 300, 400, 500 contacts in those countries. Moldova, Ukraine, all over the place. And they're starting to develop a UK base. And one of the things he said to me is saying this is a potential community franchise. There are other churches and other community groups that have got a space like this that they could use. So what we're going to do is, rather than turn it into a money-making venture, which we could do, and we may do at some point in the future, we're going to try and package the Towards Recovery pop-up cafe concept and see if we can't give it to other community groups and other people to use under that banner. And if you've been around with your eyes open at all, you'll know that something called Alpha exists that started in Holy Trinity Brompton, and they packaged it and did that sort of thing, and it's kind of gone all over the churches. Well, even though I come to this church, I made it very clear that this isn't a Christian night, this isn't a snatch squad for Sunday morning. This is about providing a safe space for those in recovery. And earlier Jasmine was asking me, when she was kind of coming up with this, she asked me lots of questions about what we're doing and why we're doing it. What does it look like? What are you going to say? What can I write down? And I said, it's really difficult to say what we're doing because recovery is often defined by what it isn't, not what it is. Treatment is very defined. You know what it is. You're in a difficult spot. You need help. You go to professionals and they help you. And that often requires maybe suspending part of your normal life. You might need to go into rehab, or you might need to, give your job up for a while and concentrate on yourself. Well, recovery is the rest of life. It's the bit that happens after treatment. And I heard Mark Gilman describe it as if it was a journey on a train from Manchester to London, then treatment is the taxi ride to the station. Recovery is the rest of the journey. And so we're trying to create something that is about the positive. It's not about the deficit. The deficit is, I have a problem, I need treatment, I need help, someone needs to help me. Recovery is about, how do I live the rest of my life with this past experience and this threat or this risk hanging over me? And I'm in that spot. I've got an addiction past. I was the archetypal problem drug user. I went into rehab and I've never looked back. So I'm living in recovery, and I've been living in recovery from the moment I entered into rehab, which was in April 1986. Even though I'm quite young, believe it or not, I've actually been in recovery for, 25 years plus. So I've got more recovery time than I've got addiction time. So I think I understand recovery better than I understand addiction. And what I want to do is create something in Henley and the surrounding areas that's a visible representation of that. And if we can have a spin-off benefit that is, if other community groups, we've got Colin here from Smart Recovery, and they're sort of developing their network across the whole of the country really. They want to do something similar where they are. They're already doing something that's recovery focused in Aylesbury, and there's recovery groups setting up all over the place. I feel like we're at the vanguard again of something new, and it's really about something positive rather than about the deficit. So tonight we thought if we laid on some food, and I asked really nicely that you would come and we could pick your brains and, you know, maybe give us, Jasmine's going to come round and talk to you, maybe ask you some questions about what you think recovery is or what it isn't. We're going to try and use this as a bit of an information gathering night, and in the new year we're going to set up this on a sort of at least a monthly basis. We're doing it in our own time, so I've still got to charge someone for my time and make some money and, you know, get the bread on the table. But we want to do, this isn't about the kind of what's in it for me concept. I had that conversation with my son tonight. What are you doing this for? What are you getting out of it? And I said, I'm getting nothing out of it, Harry. I'm doing this because I think there's something. He said, well, it should be about it. You should get something out of it. I said, well, actually, maybe I'm getting something out of it that isn't money. Maybe I'm getting something out of it for me by giving something back. So we're unashamed. We want to exploit you a little bit. We want to get your ideas. We want to link you up. Sue needs to talk to Roy, who's sitting there. He's the service manager for the harm reduction service in Oxford. She's the nomad woman that I was telling you about. We've got people here like Wendy, who's the chief exec of probably one of the most successful and long-standing rehabs, not only in this country, but probably across Europe and half the world. And she spent her first 3 days as chief exec, I think it was 3 days, maybe more, as a resident. She did a Brubaker. Has anyone seen that film where he goes in as a prisoner and he finds out what's really going on? She's the female Brubaker for the Lee community in Oxford. And, you know, Colin and Treff and others, Mick, got a lot of experience. These two are serial entrepreneurs. To get these here, I could have sold tickets just on the fact that these two are here, so that people could, you know, just talk to them and tap them up for ideas. We've got a rich kind of tapestry of people in the room that have got experience one way or another. Some of my friends are here that have had to put up with me for the last 20 odd years. So they know what recovery is. Recovery is probably just an annoying bloke to them. But we want to use this time positively. I think I'll leave it there.